Welcome to Up Close, where we go into the deck with some of the top names in poker. Tonight, lucky to have with us Mike Sexton. Good evening, Mike. Thanks for coming over.
My pleasure, Jeff.
When you look at the two sides of poker now, well, there's the television, the live poker side, and there's the internet side. Do you think that there's enough guys like you in the business? Are there enough poker people in the internet business that are keeping it going?
Oh, there's no question about it. You know, people ask me that all the time. You know,
Yeah.
Is this a fad? Is it going to last?
Yeah.
You know, are these tournaments going to die out? Is the internet, is this going to continue on? Well, I say it sure is. Well, I don't think we've scratched the surface of the potential that's out there, especially for internet poker. And I say that because every kid coming out of school now is computer literate. They've all been playing video games since they're 6 years old. They're all watching these poker shows on television, and they all go online. You can play for free online. You can learn how to play the game, get a feel for it, and all the kids are doing it. Youth is what's going to propel online poker to continue just to grow. You know, in the bridge world, which I used to play a lot of, you know, it's sort of a dying game because older people play it, like horse racing. Young people don't go into it because they're bored 45 minutes between every horse race. But the poker world is the opposite. Young people are coming in, the right base of people are coming into the game, and certainly we know when internet poker really takes off over in Asia, for example, or in Russia or some of these countries, that it's just going to grow and get bigger and bigger.
What's next for the game of poker as far as, do you think No Limit Hold'em, tournament No Limit Hold'em, is there something beyond that, or is this the game?
Well, certainly No Limit Hold'em is the game now. The reason for that is it's the most popular form of poker on television.
Yeah.
People that don't even know how to play poker understand the concept of a No Limit Hold'em tournament, that you play until there's one man standing. That if somebody says, I'm all in, and push their chips out there, the viewer knows that if this guy loses this pot, he's gone and he's out. They don't even have to know what hand beats what. They understand that drama, and they understand when guys are playing for millions of dollars, you know, that one hand that he loses, he could be gone. And that's the excitement and drama of No Limit Hold'em that you wouldn't get in limit or even pot limit poker.
I know you're a big golf fan, and obviously we've got a situation now where we can rank who the best golfers are in the world. Do you think we can honestly say right now who the best poker players are?
Well, you know, the best poker players are the guys getting the money out there. that's how you rank a poker player. But certainly in tournaments, as we know, you know, a lot of these great guys in their 20 years, you know, in the 20s are winning all the time on the World Poker Tour now. You know, youth is doing very well out there. But to me, to be considered a really great poker player, like any sport, you've got to stand the test of time. I want to see 10, 15 years from now, are these same guys out there still winning? Will they still have money? If so, then yes, put them in the great category. Right now, put them in the running good category. Yes, they're fine poker players, but let's see if they stand the test of time.
You say running good, running bad. Obviously, in your career, because you always had to fund yourself, ups and downs. What was the lowest point for you as a poker player?
Well, the lowest point, obviously, is when you can't pay the rent every month. You know, that's the lowest point, and you got to go borrow money, you know. But I was very fortunate in that, you know, even if I got short on funds, which I did at times, not because of poker playing, because I used to have a bad habit of betting on sports, for example, and you'd get broke sometimes doing that, so you'd have to go out and get staked or borrow money to get back in action. But because I had a good reputation as a poker player, you know, and was honorable, et cetera, I never had trouble getting money when I needed it, where some players might. So, you know, managing your money as a poker player is probably as important, if not more so, than being a top-notch player.
Is it still important? I mean, when you look at all the money on the internet, all these young guys, are they going to run into those problems?
Well, I'm sure they are going to run into them, and I do think money management is more important than anything. If you took a guy who was an A-plus money manager, but was just a B-minus poker player, and another guy was an A++ poker player, but a D money manager, I promise you the guy that was the B- poker player will have more money at the end of the year. So managing your money is vital if you want to stay successful as a poker pro.
You obviously have known all the old poker players. You were friendly with Stu Unger, Doyle Brunson, who you still know. Which of those guys has impressed you the most? I mean, who do you still, would you like to say, he's the best?
Well, you know, I'm an old school poker guy, you know, and you know, so I have a fondness for the older generation of players because that's the way I came up. There were no computers, there were no books. You learned by the seat of your pants back in those days. And when you got broke, you went home and scratched your head and you tried to figure out what you did wrong so you wouldn't make that mistake next time. There's so much educational information out there now for players they don't realize how lucky they are coming into the poker world nowadays with these multi-million-dollar prize pools, with all this literature where they can educate themselves to become great players, and it's fantastic for them. There's no better time to be a poker player. But I still have a fondness a little bit for the old days, and the grafting and grinding it out like we did. And certainly guys like Doyle Brunson, Chip Reese, these guys are my idols in the poker world because they've played the highest cash games and been successful for the longest period of time.
Well, I mean, Doyle, he won a World Poker Tour tournament last year. What did that mean?
Yeah,
exactly?
It meant everything. The guy's 72 years young, as we say, and capturing. He won the Legend of Poker on the World Poker Tour last year. Just a phenomenal feat. It just shows you really that age, sex, race, religion, none of that means anything on the green felt. In truth, everybody's equal out there, and anybody can do it, and that's the popularity of poker.
How about your game, Mike? I mean, obviously, you're one of the most, you look at the World Series, you're one of the most successful players as far as making final tables and stuff. Do you feel like you have something more to say about your game, or have you gotten what you wanted out of poker?
Well, honestly, I feel like I've had my share of success, on the green felt, so to speak. Certainly in tournaments, I've had my share of success and won my share of titles, a little more so probably than maybe I should have. But, I've been happy with my career, for 20 years, as I said, I just played poker every day, and I made a living doing that for all those years, so I was happy doing it. But now I'm content that, I don't have to really prove anything to anybody anymore about my skills as a poker player. And, I'm very satisfied in my life at this stage of my life for what I've accomplished in terms of the business side of poker as well as being a poker player. So really, I'm fairly content now.
And you've just come out with a book. What is that, a how-to book or is it a storybook?
Well, it's called Shuffle Up and Deal, and the World Poker Tour asked me to write this book for them. They're going to start having a series of books. They wanted me to do the first one for them. And basically, it's a very fun, entertaining book, and it will make you become a better poker player. It's tips on No Limit Hold'em, tips on tournaments, some tips on online poker, how to be a better player. It also tells the history of the World Poker Tour. In fact, the first chapter of the book was written by Steve Lipscomb, who founded the World Poker Tour, and that chapter alone is worth the price of the book. Just seeing the mentality of creating a poker tour that is essentially the PGA Tour of poker, the World Poker Tour, and viewing it from a business point of view rather than a poker point of view. And it's a very interesting read, it's fun, it's entertaining, and I'm sure that all your viewers would enjoy Shuffle Up and Deal.
Have you been a book reader over the course of your poker career? I mean, obviously Doyle Brunson's Super System, that sort of thing. How do you rank those books as far as tools for poker players?
Well, I really believe that any book that anyone reads, if somebody took the time to write a poker book, I believe if you read it, you're going to get up something out of that book that's worth the price of the book. And I don't care who wrote it, and you hear some guy saying, oh, that book's not too good, not too good. But I believe you can get something out of every book that was written. Certainly, I'm a big fan of Doyle's book, Super System. I think it's the best book ever written on poker.
You just mentioned before, poker tour, the creation of a tour. Do you actually believe that you've overseen the change of poker from a game to a sport?
I really do, and people ask me all the time, is poker really a sport? Well, maybe not from the physical side, but from the competitiveness side, I promise you there's no sport that has more competitiveness to it than high-stakes poker and big-time poker tournaments. I mean, it is really, it brings out the competitive juices in everyone, and that's why I do deem it as a sport. And certainly the prize money, like on the World Poker Tour right now, is astounding. We just crossed the $100 million prize pool mark. We're in the middle of season 3. Yeah. Now, in comparison, the PGA Tour took over 30 years before they reached $100 million in prize money. Last week, we had the Party Poker Million Finals, $7.4 million in prize money from qualifying players from an online site. To give you a comparison, the Masters Golf Tournament that's going on now has a prize pool of about $4 million. So it just shows you how much money is at stake. Since the World Poker Tour has started, we've created 22 millionaires just from poker tournaments on the World Poker Tour.
And that's down to everybody playing and all the more people. But when you look 3-4 years in the future now, besides more money, what do you see as far as poker?
Well, I think the next step that poker has to take to really be accepted worldwide and big time everywhere is they must start giving money to worthwhile charities. I believe that corporate sponsorship will come into poker more if X amount of dollars is being contributed to worthwhile charities. If players say donate 2% of their prize money to charities, the charities of their choice that they'll be selected. But I believe it's a win-win situation for everybody. It'll benefit the players. It'll bring more corporate sponsorship. and certainly it'll benefit worthwhile charities. And I believe poker needs to take that tack like the PGA Tour does. They're the biggest contributors to charity of any venue in the United States. So I think poker should follow the same trail.
What about the personalities in the game? I mean, in order for poker to grow, do you think it's a good thing? As far as we see people, well, some people get a little upset when they win, when they lose. Do you think that's good for the game or bad? I don't want to.
Yeah, well, Jesse, you know, you're a TV guy like myself, so you know what you see on TV. Some guys play to the camera and they act this and that, and you know, I'm an old poker school guy. You know, frankly, I argue with the people that do the productions on the World Poker Tour all the time. I say, you can't let this guy run around the table and roll around on the floor and all that. Well, they're not really poker people. They're TV people. They think that makes for better television, so they're happy when guys go ranting and raving at the table. You know, but myself, I prefer the well-behaved guys at the table that don't get much airtime because they don't ever get out of line.